Welcome, dear listener. Take a deep breath and let the weight of your day slowly begin to fade. You've just pressed play on another quiet journey through the long, winding corridors of the past, where dust settles softly over stone, where time drifts like the Nile's gentle current, and where the stories of forgotten people murmur softly just beneath the silence. Tonight we drift far back beyond the pyramids, past the temple columns, into the lives of the ordinary and the extraordinary in one of the oldest civilizations the world has ever known, ancient Egypt. But this will not be a story of battles or kings. Instead, we will take a slower path. We will begin with the simplest rhythms, the daily lives of farmers and families with sleeping mats and sandals worn thin. Then we will explore the deeper corners of love and bodies, rituals and beliefs, long-lost tombs and unexpected truths. Through it all we will move gently and carefully, no rushing, no drama, just the calm unfolding of old, distant lives. So settle into a comfortable position. Let your shoulders drop. Imagine the hush of wind across reeds beside the Nile, and allow your mind to wander as we begin tonight's journey into the slow, quiet world of ancient Egypt. Imagine yourself waking to the first soft light in a humble mud brick home. The air is cool, still clinging to the night time, chill before the desert sun begins its slow climb over the horizon. You lie on a simple woven mat, perhaps shared with others, with the distant sound of an ibis calling across the water. Your home is small. The walls are rough and sun-baked, the floor made of hardened earth. There's little furniture. Perhaps a low stool, a pot or two, a storage jar filled with last season's grain. You rise not with an alarm, but with the pull of daylight, as your ancestors have for generations. The rhythm of life here is not ruled by the clock, but by the seasons, the flood, and the position of the stars. The Nile is life. Its waters determine everything. When it rises, it blesses the land. When it does not, the people suffer. But for now, it is a good year. The fields nearby are rich with dark silt, and the work begins early. You may be a farmer, and if so, you are already preparing your tools, simple wooden plows drawn by oxen. If you're lucky, or by your own strength. If not, perhaps you are a potter, a fisherman, or a weaver. Whatever your task, it is done with the same calm perseverance that defines your world. The tools are old and time-worn, the methods passed down by your father and his father before him. The sun climbs higher. The work continues. There are no weekends, no holidays in the way we know them, only festivals and feast days marked by temples and priests. Meals are modest. Flatbread made from emmer wheat, maybe onions or lentils. If it's a good day, perhaps a bit of fish from the Nile, salted or dried. Water is fetched from a nearby source, often carried in large ceramic jugs upon the head. Life is physical and yet steady. Evenings come slowly. The golden sun lowers across the dusty horizon, painting the mud brick walls in deep ochre and rust. The air cools again. You sit outside with others, listening to the quiet, watching children chase each other near the doorway. There is little privacy and even less noise. There are no machines, no humming of electric light, just the whisper of wind and the occasional murmur of laughter or conversation. As night descends, oil lamps flicker dimly. A smoky scent lingers in the air. You return to your mat, body sore but mind untroubled. The stars wheel slowly above, and in this ancient silence you fall asleep. This is the rhythm of daily life in ancient Egypt. Not fast, not flashy, but steady and deeply connected to the world around it. A life of repetition, of careful balance, of respect for nature's timing. Now let us gently shift our focus from the fields and homes of daily toil to something softer, quieter, still, but no less vital, the private world of closeness. The bonds between bodies, the shared silences of lovers beneath reed-thatched roofs. In ancient Egypt, love was not merely tolerated, it was treasured. Songs were written about it, statues carved to honor it, and even the gods themselves, eternal and celestial, were often portrayed as couples, embracing longing, bringing life into being not with violence, but with connection. Imagine a simple moment. A young woman braiding her hair with a bit of scented oil, a man adjusting a linen kilt, brushing off the dust from work. They pass each other, exchange a glance. Their world is not ruled by modern ideas of privacy or inhibition. Affection is often open, sometimes even tender, in ways that might surprise us today. Marriage in this time was not always formalized through ceremony. For many it began when two people chose to live together. There were no elaborate vows for most, just quiet understanding. "I bring you into my house," they might say. And from that point forward they were husband and wife in the eyes of the community. Relationships were layered. Some marriages were monogamous, others not. Pharaohs often took many wives, sometimes for political reasons, sometimes for prestige. But among common people, relationships were more intimate. A man might describe his beloved as my sister, not in the literal sense, but as a poetic term of closeness, unity, a shared soul. Texts from the time include love poems written on papyrus, inked carefully by scribes. Their words are soft and rhythmic, often comparing lovers to flowers, birds, or flowing water. In one, a young woman speaks of her heart leaping when her beloved passes by. In another, a man dreams of simply watching his lover walk past the window. Intimacy itself was seen as natural, not shameful. Bodies were celebrated, painted on tomb walls, sculpted in temple reliefs, even mentioned in legal texts, with a matter-of-fact tone. There were no harsh taboos, but also no spectacle, just the quiet truth that physical closeness was part of life, like the harvest or the rising of the moon. Even contraceptive methods existed, though primitive honey, acacia gum, and linen, soaked in natural substances, were used, placed delicately, as a kind of early protection. Such practices hint at a thoughtful approach to the body, not just pleasure, but also planning. Infidelity did occur, and so did jealousy. There are records of disputes, of angry spouses, of public complaints. But there are also letters, small and sweet, from soldiers far away, writing home to their wives, longing for their return. A reminder that even across thousands of years, the ache of distance felt much the same. Priests and priestesses, particularly those serving certain goddesses like Hathor or Isis, sometimes led rituals of fertility or celebration of union. Festivals in honor of love deities could include music, wine, and symbolic acts of renewal, again never crude, but always wrapped in myth and meaning. We cannot know the full texture of their nights, the whispers, the laughter, the quiet moments beneath linen cloth and homes of clay. But we can imagine the calmness of shared breath, the closeness of skin against skin after a day of sun and labor. A world where love was not hidden but folded gently into daily life. Now we descend into deeper chambers, not literal ones just yet, but symbolic spaces where ancient Egyptians stored not only their treasures, but their most profound beliefs, where the body was more than flesh and love more than desire, where every gesture, every organ, every union held meaning beyond the moment. To understand intimacy in ancient Egypt is to understand how sacred they considered the human body. It was not merely a vessel, it was a map of divine balance. Every part had a name, a role, a spiritual resonance. And when a person died, the care given to their remains was not cold or clinical, it was loving, precise, ritualistic. Imagine a burial chamber, cool, still dimly lit by flickering torches. A priest whispers invocations. The body is washed, gently oiled with myrrh and cedar, wrapped in linen layer by layer. Every organ has its place. The heart, source of thought and emotion, is protected. The reproductive organs, too, are preserved, sometimes even enhanced with amulets or symbolic coverings. Why? Because they believed the body must remain whole for the spirit to thrive in the next world. Love, union, even pleasure, these were not earthly sins, but parts of eternal identity. In the afterlife, one might reunite with loved ones, enjoy feasts, stroll through gardens. It was not a ghostly realm of cold winds. It was in many ways a better version of life, filled with calm abundance. There were stories, too, sacred myths that mirrored human desire and longing. One of the oldest tales tells of Osiris and Osiris. The divine king was slain and dismembered by his jealous brother Isis. His devoted wife searched the land, gathering his scattered pieces. In one version of the story, she cannot find a certain important part, his phallus, and so fashions a new one with magic. Through her devotion and divine intimacy, she conceives Horus, the falcon god's symbol of kingship. This tale, retold for centuries, carried deep symbolic weight. It taught that love could conquer death, that union could restore what was broken, that sexuality, even in the realm of gods, was not shameful but redemptive. Gender, too, was viewed with a complexity that surprises many modern readers. While ancient Egypt was not a world of complete equality, it held space for fluidity. Certain deities blended male and female aspects. Some tomb paintings show men embracing other men with affection, though it is not always clear whether the images are familial or romantic. There are texts that describe women taking roles of power, both secular and spiritual. One particularly curious artifact is the Turin erotic papyrus, a rare and fragile scroll that depicts humans in explicit scenarios. Some humorous, others symbolic. Scholars debate its purpose. Was it satire, instruction, ceremony? We cannot say for certain, but its very existence tells us that sexuality was not only accepted, it was explored, even artistically. At the same time, modesty and ritual played a role. Temple servants, particularly those close to sacred statues, were often celibate, not because sex was sinful, but because they were keeping themselves ritually pure, focused solely on their divine duties. Among the people, amulets and charms were common, some worn for protection, others for attraction. A small figure of Baiz, the dwarf god of music and fertility, might be placed in a bedroom to bless a couple. Dreams were interpreted for signs of future unions, and the position of stars at birth could influence compatibility. Even in the tombs of great pharaohs, there are hidden whispers. Images of Hathor, goddess of joy and womanhood, etched softly into stone. Inscriptions that speak of love, of longing, of waiting to be reunited. For in their belief, death was not an end, it was a doorway to continuation, a place where one might once again feel the touch of a loved one's hand. So here, deep in this third chapter, we sit in silence, among myths and rituals, tombs and symbols. The ancient Egyptians did not draw harsh lines between body and spirit, between desire and devotion. Instead, they wove them together gently and reverently into the fabric of existence. Now imagine a different kind of morning. The sun still rises over the Nile, but it gleams against golden stone. The walls are smooth painted with careful scenes, incense curls in the air. And somewhere within the cool depths of the palace, a queen prepares for the day, not in silence, but in ceremony, to live as an elite in ancient Egypt was to live surrounded by symbols. The beds were higher draped in linen. Servants brought bowls of scented water. Clothing was finer sheer and pleated. But even here in luxury, the rhythm remained calm. Life was deliberate. And relationships, though often political, were still human at their core. The pharaoh, a living god, often had multiple wives. His great royal wife held the highest position, but other secondary wives, concubines, lived within the harem, a secluded world not of scandal, but of quiet routine. These women were not merely ornaments. Some held influence, some bore future kings, others studied music, poetry, healing. It was a world of complexity, not chaos. Within the harem, daily life moved gently. Women rose together, bathed, shared meals. The word harem often evokes a charged image today, but in ancient Egypt it was more a domestic institution, a place of female society governed by hierarchy. And subtle rivalries, men were largely absent from its corridors, save a few trusted eunuchs or royal guards, and yet intimacy still lived behind its doors. Love letters were exchanged, affairs whispered about power, quietly maneuvered through glances and alliances. A woman who caught the pharaoh's eye could rise rapidly, but with favor came caution, for to be too noticed was to be watched. Take, for instance, Queen Tai, the powerful consort of Amenhotep III. She was not of royal blood, but her intellect and presence earned her respect. She appeared beside her husband in statues, received foreign dignitaries, even continued to advise her son after the king's death. Love and partnership in this case blended with politics and legacy, or Nefertiti, famed for her beauty, yes, but also for her boldness. Some believe she ruled as pharaoh in her own right. Her image appears not just as consort, but equal, kissing her children, standing beside her husband as an icon of shared power. Among the elite, marriage was often arranged. Alliances between noble houses were sealed not with signatures, but with betrothals. Yet within those bounds, affection could grow or remain distant. It depended on the people, and behind the grand columns of temples and halls, the same hopes stirred: to be loved, to be remembered, to leave. Something behind eroticism, even among the elite, was not loudly proclaimed. It lived in jewelry, amulets shaped like lotus flowers or fertility symbols, and music, soft flutes and chanting lyrics in private gardens, walled oases of cool water and shade, where couples might walk among papyrus and birdsong. Even servants and handmaidens live lives of quiet longing or secret joys. Their stories are mostly lost, but in one surviving tale, a nobleman dreams of a serving girl. He once knew her voice soft, her steps light as she passed beneath the arches. In this world, status shaped experience but not emotion. Desire did not discriminate, and in the royal tombs we still find their memories. Scenes of couples touching, of offerings made in pairs, of queens laid to rest beside kings, their names carved side by side into eternity. In the quietness of these walls, we see that even those crowned with gold lived lives not so different from others, full of longing, ritual, companionship, and silence. And so we return, from the farmers and fishermen who woke to the river's rhythm, to the poets and lovers who whispered beneath moonlight, to the priests and queens who walked through perfumed halls. Ancient Egypt lives not just in monuments, but in the quiet moments they left behind. In every worn brick and every forgotten letter, in every soft echo of laughter that once filled those mud brick homes. Life then was slower, grounded, deeply tied to nature belief, and the body desire was not feared. Love was not hurried, and even the gods, distant and divine, were imagined in the tender image of a couple holding hands. As you lie here now wrapped in your own silence, perhaps you can feel just a faint trace of that ancient calm. The breeze over the reeds, the hush of sand drifting in corners, the stillness of rooms long since emptied. Rest now, traveler, in time. The past will still be here when you wake, but for now let it carry you softly into sleep. Good night.